Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. Some time ago, the U.S. News and World Report told about a British military team that was trying to cut down on the traditional manpower that was used to handle a heavy piece of artillery known as a six-man field cannon. The men studied each job as described in the instruction manual, which had always called for a crew of 6 to operate the six-man cannon, though there were only 5 jobs. Finally, they located the author of the manual, a retired general, and asked him what the 6th man was supposed to do. "Oh," he replied, "the 6th man, he holds the horses." Well, they hadn't used horses for the cannon for many years, of course, but the position had persisted. No reason was necessary. Precedent had become reason enough. Tradition dies hard. We've always done it this way. We've always thought this or that. Mark Twain once said that the only person who likes change is a wet baby. And in several areas of life, we tend to resist change as we cling to the comfort of tradition. But there can be no growth without change, no change without loss, no loss without pain. It hurts to discover we have cherished the wrong idea about something. In World War I, the French military didn't like change either, and they paid a high price for clinging to tradition. New weapons had become available to the troops, the airplane, the tank, and the radio, for example. But the French clung to tradition, always reluctant to change. General Chauvinot pointed out that despite its wings, the airplane has a tendency to fall heavily to the ground. He didn't believe in tanks either. A vehicle that eventually runs out of gas, he observed, cannot be considered dangerous. And Marshal Foch claimed that the bayonet assault would long remain supreme. Indeed, French officers given the first field radios in World War I threw them out, saying they could do just as well with bugles. Some years ago, I was struck by a sign I noticed on Old North Bridge in Lexington, Massachusetts, referring to the 18th century British soldiers who fought there and lost. It read, "They sailed 3,000 miles and died to keep the past upon its throne." Tradition dies hard. I'm told that high in the Andes, flamingos will stand in the lakes during warm days. But when the sun goes down, the lakes freeze them in place, so they can't move until the next morning when the ice thaws. How many of us get stuck in the ice of tradition when we were made to fly? In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus, speaking to the Pharisees, said, "You leave the commandment of God and hold to the tradition of men." Their life was all about keeping man-made rules, while their hearts were not engaged with God. Such was the case of the Apostle Paul, who confessed, "I was advancing in Judaism beyond many of my own age among my people. So extremely zealous was I for the tradition of my fathers." But on the road to Damascus, God met Paul in dramatic fashion, and Paul came to see that, though sincere, he had been sincerely wrong in persecuting the Christians. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. observed astutely that a mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its old dimensions. Back to the Bible, Dr. Luke commended the people of Berea because they were more open-minded than those in Thessalonica, because they listened eagerly to Paul's message, and they also searched the scriptures day after day to see if Paul and Silas were teaching the truth. They were objective in their evaluation of Paul's message, judging it by the standard of Scripture rather than by their preconceived prejudices. They also received the Scriptures with great eagerness, wanting to learn, and they examined the Scriptures daily There was no blind acceptance of tradition there, but an intelligent searching for the truth. They allowed their minds to be stretched. Recently, we celebrated the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, when a German scholar named Martin Luther challenged the authority and the office of the Church by teaching that the Bible is the only source of divinely revealed knowledge from God. Luther translated the Bible from Latin into German, and aided by the invention of the printing press, it was made widely available and had tremendous impact on both the church and the German culture. It also influenced the writing of an English translation by William Tyndale, who was martyred for his effort by strangling and burning at the stake. Like the Bereans, we do well to check our thinking about what the Bible teaches. Beware of blind tradition. Don't get stuck in the ice. You were made to fly. And thank you for tuning in once again to Village Church Connections.